Are you someone interested in learning to code? Well, if so, I am Coding Pepper. I have been coding for the past 5 years and welcome to my channel. The language you choose doesn't really matter as most of them are pretty similar as you get a hang of things. However, in my opinion, the simplest language to start with is Python as it has almost English-like syntax. Now, here is how you can code in Python. I recommend you follow along in onlinepython.com to experiment with the language. If you do, make sure to delete the sample code before continuing. In this course, I will explain these concepts: variables, functions, conditional statements, loops, math and logical operations. A variable has a name and holds a value. They are used to store data. A valid name can contain only digits, letters, and an underline. Note that a name cannot start with a digit. A value can be a number, text, aka a string, or a list. Here is how to make a variable. Name equals to value. Functions are very important. They allow developers to turn repetitive code into something reusable. Let's say you have to sum the sum of two values with the multiplication of them and assign it to a variable. This is how we can do that. But if you want to do that twice or 3 times, it might be tedious. Instead, let's make a function to do that. A function is defined like so: def, name, and the names of the arguments separated by commas in the brackets, and our little cherry on top, the colon. Now, as our function is defined, it needs its context. Hit tab before each line you want it to be in the function body. Now, to get the desired output, we need to return it, but instead of using our values, we type in the argument names. When we run the program, nothing happens. That is because we didn't call our function. Here is how to call the function. Name, and in the brackets the values. I'm gonna do, let's say, 2 and 3. Note that you can't access the arguments outside of the function body. It still doesn't do anything if you run this. The reason is we didn't tell it to display. Python has a function called print. It takes in arguments of what to display. Let's call print with our variable name, and how do you see that? Beautiful, it works. Now, let's add control flow to our program. If, then the condition, and a colon. If the condition is true, then the block executes. Make sure to hit tab before every line you want to have in an if statement. After an if or an elif, you can add an elif block. It behaves the same as if, but executes if the previous haven't and the condition is met. At the end of our chain, we can add else. It doesn't take any conditions and executes if all the previous in the chain haven't. Loops have the same block behavior as conditional statements and function. There are 2 types of loops, while and for. A while loop takes in a condition and executes the body until the condition is false. For a for loop, iterates through a list and allows the user to get the colon element. Here's how you do it. For name, I choose E, in list. This is a list hosting numbers from 1 to 10. In the body, we print the element. It runs as expected. There is also a function you can use to make lists out of numbers. It takes 2 arguments, start and end. Note that the end is not included. You can use the break keyword to break from a loop. There is also a continue keyword to skip a loop cycle. Last thing for us to cover are math and logical operations. First, let's cover math. You can add numbers, subtract numbers, multiply numbers, divide numbers, raise a number to the power of another, and do roots, and get a reminder of division. A cool tip, you can multiply a string by a number to repeat it. Now, the logical ones. Double equals is true if the values are the same. Exclamation mark equals is true if the values are different. Lesser is true if the value on the left is smaller than one on the right. Greater is true if the value on the left is bigger than the one on the right. Greater equals is true if the value on the left is bigger or equal to the one on the right. And lesser equals is true if the value on the left is smaller or equal to the one on the right. Note that the previous four only work with numbers. There is also AND. AND is true if both of the conditions result in true. OR is true if at least one condition results in true. IN checks if an element is in a list or a character is in a string. Not IN is just the opposite of IN. Now I have a homework for you. Write me a code that gets the sum of even numbers below 100. Share your answers in the comments, and if you want a second part, tell me in the comments. Or for further help, you may want to join my Discord. Have a pleasant rest of your day. Coding Pepper is out.